Hi everybody, welcome back or welcome to Allie Sew Crafty, where we talk all about sewing. I am Allie. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the behind the scenes of the steps I took to fulfill an order of 20 scarf towels. This video, it's talking all about the preparation process before I make the scarf towel. So it's all about selecting the fabric, measuring the fabric, cutting, all of that, and kind of like the thought process that went behind it, okay? And I'm going to share with you some of my tips on how I determine how much fabric I need, etc. I think you will enjoy this video very much. Later, I will share the video of how I made all 20 scarf towels, okay? But yeah, this is an order I received, and hey, I'm not gonna say no to a big order of 20 scarf towels, right? So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is go through all of the fabric that I have. So I'm going to cut all this fabric to see how much I have and also match them with some of the towels I already have. My mom did an amazing job putting all these fabrics for me together, matching, you know, the towels with the fabric to make sure they look good. First I need to know how many I can really make. What I've done before is I've taken a little bit, you know, a paper, a notebook like this, like a grid notebook, grid paper, and you see all the little squares. Well, each square represents a square inch. So what I do is that I draw the width of my fabric in half, of course. So 44 inches wide, I draw 22 little squares, and then I do 36 down, which is 1 yard. And then I count, right? How many inches is the length and how many inches is the width. So if I want to cut this, what was it? 12 and a half, I think it was. So I count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 12. And then I can tell, oh, I can use half a yard for this project, or no, this is going to take the whole yard, or whatever, And remember that there is a fold. So I mark the area that it says fold so that I know it's double. And I mark the area that is the selvage. So that also helps me know, okay, I have to cut it this way, along the selvage, or I'm going to cut it the other way. Never on bias, because you get more out of your fabric when you cut on bias, but when you wash a product, the fabric tends to twist. So it's not going to be nice and even straight after you wash it and you use it. So cutting on the bias is just not recommended unless it's a type of dress that it goes like that. That's the design of the dress. And then yes, you cut your fabric on bias. But anyway, that's for another day. So this also helps me with the pricing, because I can see, okay, it's if I multiply the number of square inches width and length, that's 1,500 inches. And then I'm only using 600 inches. So then I can kind of know the price per inch. And that helps me get an idea, because sometimes you're like, well, yeah, I used half a yard, but you really didn't use half a yard. You probably used less or more or whatever. So I find this being a little more exact on, like, for me to know how much did I really use. And then all the little scrap fabrics, I do other things with that, right? The cord organizers, I can probably do some hanging towel toppers with the rest of the fabric, etc. So that's how I kind of calculate it. I don't know if it's correct or not, but that's how I do it. So that's what we're going to do now. We're going to go through this and go through the fabrics. And I'm going to see how many I really can make. So this part of the process may look like it's taking a long time, but I think it's very important for two reasons. First of all, you want to be able to plan before you start cutting the fabric. That way you have a plan, and then you start cutting your fabric, and that's it. You don't do anything else. You don't focus on anything else. You just cut fabric because you already know how you're going to do it. You're not double questioning, double guessing yourself. Second, it's because you do want to get the most out of your fabric, right? You want to get the most out of it. So for example, I'm thinking if I cut this fabric this way, not along the cross grain, but what's the word? I can't remember the word right now. I can't remember the word. I'm sorry. But if I cut it that way, I can have two strips of fabric, right? But the width, the length of this will be 42 inches. I only need 25. So that means that if I cut it like this, I'm going to then and this is on the fold. This is on the fold. I'm going to have more material than I need, which means I'm going to have to cut this even more. And so I'm going to have like a random piece of fabric. Two random pieces of fabric. However, if I cut it along the grain, which is the way you're supposed to do it anyway, I have my width here and I have my length here. Well, that will be exactly the length, and that will be the two pieces that I need. I need two pieces of fabric with this width and this length. Okay, perfect. I don't have to cut again another, because if I cut it along the width here, this is too much. This is going to be too much fabric. So I'm going to have to cut some and then leave an extra piece. Instead, here, I just cut it all at once. It's a one cut on the fold, so I cut two at once. So that's going to save me time. Plus, it will leave all this extra fabric, all this and this, untouchable. Like it's not cut, which means that I have more freedom to use that for anything else instead of two rectangles. What if I want to make something that it is not two rectangles? What if I want to make something that it is a little wider or longer? Now I have that entire piece of fabric. So definitely I'm going to cut it this along the grain. Now I'm just going to figure out how many inches is that overall to kind of have an idea if I'm using a half a yard or 1/3 of a yard, or how much of the fabric I'm really using. Consider liking this video and subscribing to this channel if you have learned something today. Okay, I got it. I am going to cut the width a little bit smaller. Instead of the 12.5 inches, I'm going to cut it 11 inches because I can gather the towel as wide or as small as I need to, but the bottom here is always going to be the size of the towel, so I don't have to worry about that. I can make them as tiny, as skinny as I want to practically, in order to get the most out of my fabric. And so that is what was kind of like, oh my gosh, that measurement wasn't matching, like it wasn't working. And I'll be honest, I like the scarf towels that I made, but I want to make them a little bit skinnier here on the back because it's kind of bulky here around your neck. So I was going to taper them down here along the neck, but I can make them skinnier. I don't have to make them 12 inches, 12 and a half inches wide. I can make them smaller. I can make them skinnier, sorry, so that I can get more out of my fabric. But if I do that, if I make them just 1.5 inches smaller, not a lot, just 1.5 inch smaller, I can actually get 3 scarf towels. 3. No, not 3. I can definitely get 2. I can definitely get 2 from 1 yard, and I still have fabric left over to do a pouch, to do a hanging organizer, you know, a foldable organizer or foldable hanger, whatever it's called. You know, these that I make. Let me show you. Make some of these that you hang these on your closet or behind your door to travel. You just carry these with you, you fold them, and they fold perfectly. Anyway, I can make some of these. There's enough fabric to make other things, and I can easily get 2 scarf towels cut along the side here. So so it will leave me this much fabric left here. So it's not an odd piece of fabric. Okay. It's just a long piece of fabric that I can do something else with it. Even another scarf towel with a quilted one that I can mix and match with other fabrics. I don't know. We'll see. But I can definitely get 2 out of 3/4 of a yard. It's about 3/4 of a yard. So this is great. Now I'm gonna get ready to cut the fabrics. Now I know for a fact this is going to work. Oh, this red one is so pretty. Oh no. Oh no, wait a minute. Oh yeah. Oh no, it's not a yard. What? It was a yard, but you see, this is something to take into consideration. So I decided to wash and dry this fabric before I cut it and before I sew on it. So just to make sure. And I have a video here where I talk about that because that is kind of like a controversial subject. People say, oh, you shouldn't wash it. Other people say, yes, you should. And in my case, I think of the final product. If the material I'm using will be used for a product that will be put in the laundry and in the dryer, then yes, I am going to wash it before. Because I want to make sure that it doesn't bleed, you know, and ruin other fabrics, that it shrinks, whatever. And lo and behold, I did this with this beautiful red fabric. And guess what? I purchased 1 yard. I purchased 1 yard. And I don't have a yard now. It shrunk by almost 2 inches. Actually, yeah, 2 inches. I can still make the 2. It's just that I'm not going to have a lot of fabric left over if I want to make something else. I'm going to be short by 2 inches, but I can actually still make 2 because these are going to be 25 inches long. This is definitely something to pay attention to. now we're going to cut the actual pattern. And as I'm cutting it, I realized that the fabrics have the selvage here area. You know, that it gives you the colors that are in the fabric that you can match it with and all that. Well, this is almost an inch wide. It's pretty wide. It's, yeah, 3/4 of an inch, which means that my measurement now is going to be short, because when you cut this 1/4 of an inch from the fabric, you don't have 44 inches anymore. The 44 includes the selvage. Well, you can't use that really for anything. So I had to rearrange my fabric a little bit. And you know, you still have this other side, but this side it's okay because it's gonna be hidden in the seam. But I had to kind of rearrange my fabric one more time, the width. And now my width is going to be, I think, 10.5 or something like that. But it's gonna have to be like that. It's gonna have to stay at that size, because yeah, so now it's 21 divided by half, it's 10.5. So yeah, take that into consideration when you measure your fabric. The selvage, it's probably 3/4 of an inch that you have to remove from the width of your fabric. And I know that. I know that. When I saw it, I was like, how did I miss that? Anyway, let's keep on going. Okay, so I've gotten quite a few of these scarf towels cut. All of the fabric I cut, actually. All I'm doing next is trimming the final rectangle so that it's smaller here on the back. So the rectangle looks like it's not a rectangle anymore. It's gonna look like a cone. And so it's gonna look like this. So it's smaller on one side and then wider at the bottom. That way it's more comfortable here on the back of the neck. So that's all I'm doing now. I will continue just removing that extra fabric here on the top. And once I'm done with all of these, then I'm gonna start putting them together. Before I start putting them all together, I went ahead and I took the measurements and I traced a pattern on tissue paper. And I actually traced 2, right? So that I can't, because it's like a big rectangle, and then I make them, you know, so the one side here is smaller and the other one is wider. So this is more narrow for the back of the neck and wider here for the actual towels. So I made 2 of these, and having made the patterns, tracing them like this in tissue paper really helped cutting all of the fabric, because then I was able to clearly see how much I needed, and I even had a little bit of fabric left on the side and on the bottom. So that's what I did. And now the next step is to start putting all of these together, which will be the next video. But if you haven't seen that video yet, if that video is not live yet, or if you want to see how I made the first scarf towels, then go check out this video right here. Otherwise, go see part 2 of this process. I'll see you there. Ciao.